Facebook. Hey, come on in. We're getting ready to talk about some financial revelations today. I know it's important considering the time that we are in. We have to have some direction for our finances. And Mount Pleasant Missionary Baptist Church is all about bringing that to you. So thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Connections today. Today, the show is talking about planning for next. What's next? Because I think some people probably made some decisions that might not be the best because you saw the stock market crashing and people started taking their money out of their 401k. We're going to talk about that today. So come on now, get on the live. You may even have some questions that you want to have answered according to your personal finance. And you don't have to say your name, just say somebody you know. Okay, so just post your questions on the feed and we're going to answer them today as best as we can. We're also on the radio, so we're going to go back and forth between the live. But thank you so much for tuning in. We're on WCHB. All right, here we go. Yeah. You are tuned in to WCHB 1340 AM, a Radio 1 production, and welcome to Kingdom Connections, the quarantine version. I'm here in quarantine. This is a time filled with inspiration and information. Today is all about revelation, financial revelations, that is. I'm your host, Reverend Erica Hall. We're going to be talking about learning how to manage money, resources, wealth, according to the word of God. Yeah. And it's all going to be relevant to where we are. So we've had a whole lot to happen in the first part of this year, 2020. So I want to keep you on the right track today. So now we're going to talk about what's next. How do we prepare? How do we take stock of everything that's going on? We're going to talk about your personal finances and even planning for the things that are unexpected. Will you stay with us today? All right, we'll be right back. We'll be right back with the rest of the show. I am so glad to be with you. I thank you to Mount Pleasant for tuning in today. Come on, get your shot ins and post on the Facebook Live. Thank you, Pastor Minnick, for allowing us to do this show, Kingdom Connections, every Saturday at 5 p.m. Thanks for joining us. We'll be right back after this song. All right, after this song break. Thank you. All right, so yeah, today let me see who's tuning in today and who's joining in with us, because we're gonna have some questions. I know some of you may have been wondering about where your stimulus is, and I've heard they've begun to hit some of those accounts where folks have already filed their taxes, and so it may be based on your 2018, based on your 2019. Hopefully, you have a relationship with your tax person who can help explain that to you. Stimulus payments are starting to go out for businesses. The PPP application has been closed. So get those questions in. Maybe you're thinking about getting money out of your 401k. I want to talk to you about that today. Let's see what we got on here. Hey, Carlton, thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Brother Parks. Welcome. I'm so glad that you tuned in today. So I want to talk about the stock market, because at the onset of the talk about the pandemic and the virus spreading, the market began to tank, and folks lost about 30% in their portfolios. And I talked with someone the other day, and they told me that at the news, they went right into their 401k and they cashed out everything out of the stock. They sold the stock, and that's not what we're supposed to do. That's panic. And we don't want to panic. We want to make smart moves, which is why we want to make sure that we have a plan. All right. Yeah, let's come on back in. Let's talk about planning and getting ready for going through these different market experiences. All right. So here we are. We're going to talk about what you're supposed to be doing as when we're experiencing a down or bear market. What are some things that you can do to make the most of this time? I know you have some questions, so post your questions. You can ask specific questions about your portfolio, about how you are investing, whether you are aggressive, should you stay aggressive, whether you're conservative. I have these stock, my company matches my investment with company stock. Should I keep those? What should I do with those? We can talk about all of that today. But one thing I do want to let you know is that because of the CARES Act that was passed a few weeks ago, part of the 401k access in your retirement account has now been forgiven up to $100,000. Up to $100,000 if you were to take a distribution out of your retirement plan and you're under the age of 59 and a half, you normally would have to pay a 10% penalty. But now, during this pandemic, during the coronavirus, and part of the CARES Act and part of the rules that have been passed, that 10% penalty will be forgiven. You still will be liable for the taxes, the current taxes for that distribution, but want to let you know that if you have the need for that extra income, you will be able to do that without that penalty. All right, hey Linda J Aragande is tuning in, and she said, "Is this a good time to buy stock? If so, which ones do you recommend?" All right, that's a good question. I love that. Yes, this is a good time to not only invest in stock, invest in the market, invest in internationals. It's also a good time to rebalance or diversify your portfolio. So, as I talked about the person I spoke to the other day, and he was telling me how he took his company matches the 401k with company stock, and he sold it all. Well, that's just the opposite of what we're supposed to do. I like to give the analogy of when you think about the stock market, kind of picture it like where you live in your house. Would you sell your house just because the value of it has dropped down it's in a down market? No, you wouldn't, because we would be going against exercising that thing of buying low and selling high. But this show is all about financial revelation. So first of all, I want to bring you to the principle. We're going to bring up this slide to bring you this principle of diversification. Did you know that the Word of God has everything we need for managing our finances? Listen, I want to first set the stage here, because if you believe that God is the owner of all things and we are stewards, I think you will buy into the fact that God has given us direction for how we're supposed to manage our lives. And so I want to look at Ecclesiastes 11 and 2, and how this tells us that we are supposed to diversify our investments and give a portion of 7 also to 8, for thou knowest not what evil shall be upon the earth. So you want to make sure that you are diversifying. That means not putting all your eggs in one basket. And being in cash is putting all your eggs in one basket. Why? Because you're now banking on just not making, you're not going to participate in any of the comeback of the stock market. And if you look at the history of the market over the past 20, 30, 40 years, the market has had one thing that it's always done, and that is it has continued to grow, and you'll miss out on that growth. And so if you have a financial strategy, part of your strategy says that I'm going to have so much in stock, so much in bonds, and so much in cash. And how you put those items together determines how aggressive you are. But I want to answer Linda's question directly. Should I invest in stock? Now, Linda, I'm not going to give you the actual ticker symbol of the stock that you can invest in, because I can't do that here on the air. I got to keep my license, but I will give you some idea of where you can start looking for some growth. So you want to look at domestic stock, diversify with some international emerging markets. And one thing that I love about the market is this thing called ETFs. ETFs are a great tool for investing in different areas of the market, such as international stock, domestic stock, as I mentioned, US stock, small cap, mid cap, large cap. You can get the emerging markets, and you can use ETFs, which stands for electronically traded funds. You can use ETFs as a tool so that you can have the experience of diversifying in the market, but also It's a low cost way for you to have investments that are spread out throughout the different sectors of the market. And so ETFs might be a good way for you to go and check out. Now, Linda, I'll be happy to speak with you personally and give you the actual symbol of the ones that I'm recommending right now in this season. But I just want to let you know that if you have stock in your portfolio, you do not want to sell your positions. You do not want to get out of your positions. Now, what you may have found is that your stock positions may have the amount that you're holding may have changed because of the fluctuations in the market. So now would be a good time to rebalance and look at how you're contributing to your plans. So if you're in a 401k at your employer's plan, you want to continue to put that 10%. I know you're putting 10% in that 401k as part of your contributions, so that you can get that match. Don't change it. Don't take it down unless you are out of work and you do need to find some ways to bring more income or put more income into your pocket. And so if you are in that place, I want to talk to you over our next before we or after we come back from our next break. I want to talk to you some ideas. Talk to you about some ideas of how you can look for some ways to limit your expenses and add some income into your pocket, into your streams of money, that's your resources that are coming in. But I also wanted to talk about diversifying is not just with investing, diversifying is also the types of income that you have. There are four different types of income. There's that earned income that we receive on the job. You may have a business income, you may be self employed, but then there's another type of income, and that's passive income. And passive income is another area that we should be exploring as we are sitting home in this time of staying home and staying safe. This is probably something that um, we have been thinking about of how can we come out of this. There's no way we should come out of this time of sitting and contemplating and think about things that we can do. There's no way we shouldn't come out of this experience with some great ideas. All right, I think I have another question from one of our folks that are listening or watching on the live. Yeah, hey, Lenore says, can you share how we can get in on some of the high price stocks? Amazon. Oh, you through fractional shares. Well, you just told the secret. It is fractional shares. So I like the question because if you're going to look at some of the companies that are out there, if you're looking for companies that you want to purchase, I say look at companies that you're familiar with. Look at companies that you use, companies that you have become familiar with, products that you purchase, things like staples, electronics. Lenore here mentioned Amazon. And yes, those are some high price positions. Those you'll find sometimes where company stock prices may be somewhere in the thousand or hundreds of dollars per share. But you can purchase these stocks based on how much you want to invest. So let's say you open up a brokerage account. Let's just say hypothetically, you open up a brokerage account and now you've decided that you can contribute $100 a month or $50 a month into this account because this is based on your budget and what you can afford. Well, in that brokerage account, you can still purchase the companies that you want by purchasing fractions of shares. That means you may not purchase the entire share of Amazon or whatever the company is that you're interested in purchasing, but you'll get fractions of shares. And one of the ways that this works best for the smaller investor is putting it on autopilot. If you put it on autopilot where the money's going in every month on the 15th and every month on the 16th, you're purchasing $50 worth of Amazon or whatever that stock may be, Nike, Disney, whatever it may be. I don't have a preference for one, but I'm letting you know that this is the system, the tool that you can put in place in your account so that you can start purchasing stock today. You can open up an account today. And if you're set with an amount that you can put on autopilot and save, that's one of the best ways to save for the future. Do we have any other questions out there. Yes, we have some. Hey, Shatia, we have everyone listening. All right, thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to take a quick break, really quick, real quick. And when we come back, we're going to start talking about some of the things that we can do during these times to cut some finances, cut some areas that may not be what we call essential, or those discretionary expenses that we want to look at cutting this time. All right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back after this. Hey, Shatia. All right, I want to give a birthday shout out to my friend Tiffany. Hey, Tiff Rush. Happy birthday to you today, girl. Hope you enjoying your birthday. I know it's hard. But just make some tea and enjoy that birthday cake that you posted on Facebook. It looks delicious, and we can enjoy it together. So we can FaceTime later and enjoy some tea together. Hope you are enjoying this Saturday. It's a beautiful day. I think we have some more questions. Do you have any suggestions for a second income during this quarantine? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. All right, so I'm gonna wait till we get back on the air to give the details. But that's a good question, Linda. I'm so glad that you asked. Come on, post your questions. I know. Yeah, yeah, post your questions so we can get you in and talk about some of the things that you're experiencing at this time. I know most people are getting some extensions. Most companies have been given the direction not to do collections for about 60 days, which is one of the things that the student, if you have a student loan, the Navient department for student loans has been instructed not to collect for 60 days, but you have to initiate that. You have to give them a call and let them know that you want to defer for those 60 days. So make sure you stay on top of everything. We're going to answer your questions and we're going to talk a little bit about what we can do during this time to cut those expenses as we go into developing our plan, because you got to have a plan. God wants us to have a plan. Amen. Amen. All right. So I'm I know that we typically do a shout out in April. I don't think we got to do that. We got to make sure we call on all those April. I don't know what the sign is for April, but all those folks who have a birthday in April. We didn't get to sing happy birthday to you, so I was just thinking about it. Go ahead and you got a birthday this month, post on the Facebook Live so I can give a shout out to you and say happy birthday to all those who were born in the month of April. Hope you are finding some creative ways to celebrate your birthday. I've seen folks who've been doing Zoom birthday parties, so you gotta be creative. All right. How are you? Are you getting birthday? Okay, we can send you some Cash App birthday presents. So maybe you can post your cash tag. Uh-oh. Maybe we can post your cash tag. All right, Tiff. I know Tiff gone. Oh, Aries. Cynthia said that. All right. Happy birthday, Sandra Sanders. April 26th is her birthday. Happy birthday to you, my dear. Thank you so much for tuning in to Financial Revelations. Because listen, God has given us the financial principles that we can implement and use when it comes to managing our finances. And so today, now we're getting ready to go back and talk about having a plan, having some kind of a plan. You got to have a plan. You got to have a short term, you got to have a midterm, and you got to have a long term plan. Did you know that your retirement account is your long term plan? And so, any other investing or savings that you do, those are the things that are geared towards your short term and your midterm plan. And it's not just the bills that you pay, but it means that we have to save for emergencies, because we're not supposed to touch those 401k and those IRAs. That's future money. We're going to talk about that a little bit as we come back here. All right, Niani, we can come on back. Happy birthday. Tawanta, thanks so much for joining in. It's not your birthday. I think you were saying happy birthday to someone else. Thank you so much for tuning in to WCHB 1340 AM. I am your host, Reverend Erica Hall, today talking to you on Kingdom Connections, information that we're bringing to you. This show is about financial revelations, and I'm gonna tell you the reason we call it financial revelations is because we know that the Bible has some spiritual biblical principles that we can implement in our lives. And so we showed you earlier how the Bible in Ecclesiastes warns us that we aren't to just invest in one thing. Sometimes our job can be that one thing, that we should diversify and have additional streams of income. And I think hey, Pastor, how are you? Pastor Minnick has chimed in and asked a question about, is this a good time to invest in a new business? Oh, definitely yes. Definitely yes. This is a good time to invest in a new business. So some of the ideas, that's a good question, Pastor. Thank you so much for posing that question. Some of the ideas that you could think about as you're looking for additional streams of income. Well, I know a few people, even who attend the church, who are looking at creating some drop ship businesses, where they're looking to start an online boutique and they're doing drop ship businesses. I know some who are creating opportunities by looking on websites at businesses for sale. And so you can go to these websites where these people who have established businesses and they're looking to sell the business, sometimes for a nominal price. And most of the businesses are already established with a website. They have a business clientele. I've even seen where they've had facilities that have an established business, and the business will be it will be booked for the entire year. So you'll buy this business already with an established stream of income. And so these ideas are some that you can start to employ so that you can create another stream of income while you are experiencing unemployment, layoff, job loss, or you're just not finding that you're making enough money with the job that you have. One of the ways that you can create another stream of income, of course, is with your investments. However, investments typically take some time before they're able to provide you a return. So if you found yourself in this time where you don't have the amount of income that you need to make the make the ends meet, you're having more month than money, then now is the time to take a look at your expenses, take a look at your bills, and take a look at what you have coming in, and what you have going out. And so this is the time where we're going to do some things like separating them into categories such as uh, non-discretionary expenses and discretionary expenses, right? Non-discretionary expenses, these are the ones that you don't have discretion over. You have to pay your mortgage. You have to pay your homeowner's insurance. You have to pay your gas bill and your light bill, and you have to pay your car note and your auto insurance, and even for your medical premiums and things like that. Those are discretionary, non-discretionary expenses. But in the area of discretionary expenses, this is where we can start to cut some things we consider them non-essential. Now, you can debate back and forth. I don't know if your plan has to work for you, but here's our next slide that I want to show you as a part of financial revelations. Here's a revelation that God gave me when he showed us that we need to have a plan. It is so important for us to have a financial plan, not only for your monthly living, your budget. You should have a plan and stick to it. You want to have a plan and you want to be able to stick to that plan. And when you write out your plan, it should be based on what's good for you, what works for your household. So, for example, if you get paid twice a month, then you should move your bills to those pay periods. You should have that plan where you're going to move your bills to the pay period. Here's the slide. Proverbs 21:5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Right? So if we want to if we want to prosper, we want to be prosperous, we want to make sure that we have a plan. We shouldn't just be paying things as they come in. No, they should fit into our budget and they should fit into our plan. It's very doable for you to contact your merchant or the company that you have an account with and ask them to move the due date from the beginning of the month to the end of the month, or to move it to a time frame that works for you. So for example, if you're paid twice a month, then you want to split those bills up according to how you're paid. And secondly, as we talk about discretionary income, discretionary bills, these are the things like, of course, gym memberships. Now, don't get upset with me on this one if I say cable. Cable is a discretionary expense. We can live without cable. We can live without it. Some other are subscriptions. Check up if you look and add up all the subscriptions that you have. Some of those subscriptions during this time may have to go so that you can free up some funds, and so you can have some extra money, or so that you're able to make ends meet, and it's not a struggle during this time. And it may also be a good strategy for you when you're trying to find money to save. If you want to be able to save, because part of your financial plan, if part of your goal is that I want to save enough money for emergencies, I want to save up. The rule of thumb is about 6 months of at least 6 months of living expenses, and you don't have that extra residual money once you get paid, then that means that in order to reach that goal, you're going to have to reduce some of your living expenses so that you can free up some funds there. All right. And so I know that I got folks who are chiming in. Thank you so much. I think Nicole Bradshaw Gully. Hey, Nicole. Doris Lanier Jefferson. Carlton said, "Say what?" Because I said, Carlton, was it because I told you to turn off the cable? I know you don't have to keep it off. You don't have to keep it off. You can just turn it off for just for a few months, or just for 6 months, to say during these 6 months, this is a time that we're going to be working towards saving, or whatever that goal is. All right, we're going to take a quick break, a real quick break. And before we come back, when we come back, we're going to talk about planning for next, and then that'll be it for our show. So get your questions in so I can make sure I answer them before we leave. All right, have your tea. We're going to take a break. Be right back. All right, we got happy birthday, Chauncey. Chauncey, 16. Oh, April 16th. My bad, Chauncey. I'm sorry. Happy birthday. Hey, Danielle. Thank you all so much for tuning in. This next section, we're going to talk a little bit about planning for what's next. And it's a little bit hitting home. I know most of you, I haven't really publicly shared so much about how I'm feeling in the loss of my husband, but I'm just getting to a place where I'm ready to talk about uh, I guess most of the experience that people are having across the world, around the world, but even with the hitting home of um, just how we can plan for unexpected. And I'm not just talking about finances. Um, I'm talking about preparing. No, we can come on back in about 20 seconds. I'm talking about planning for those who may be here when you're not here, and you want to make sure that they're ready, that they're prepared to carry on. So this last segment, we're just going to talk about planning for what's next. All right, planning for what's next. I think that this time has presented, going through all of this experience, this time has presented us with some things that we just don't know what to say. Some things have happened unexpected. And what do you do when you've lost a loved one, and you don't know how to find anything, and maybe you just haven't prepared. We just do all this living. I've even heard it said that most people they go through all this planning a wedding, planning for a birthday party, a birthday celebration, but we don't do a whole lot of planning for the next generation. And so this financial revelation that I want to share with you today is, did you know that God says in his word, he says that a good man, a good person leaves an inheritance for his children's children. All right. A good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So I wanna leave that with you today as we just look at where we are. I'm not just talking about life insurance and how we structure everything, but teaching and preparing the next generation for what's to come. So I just want to close up. We're gonna close on the station. Proverbs 13:22, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. Thank you so much for tuning in to Kingdom Connections. This has been Reverend Erica Hall with your financial revelations today. Make sure that you prepare for the next generation. We're going to talk about that next time, about all the things that you can get to prepare yourself and your family for leaving an inheritance from the generations to come. All right, be blessed. Thank you for tuning in. All right, Facebook. So we're going to talk a little bit more about this today. Planning for the next generation. You should always be planning for next. You should always be planning for next. And so this means that you have the proper life insurance policies, and everyone who needs to know knows where they are, knows that you have. I mean, what's the purpose of having a life insurance policy if only you know it? I don't know what it is that we want to keep those things secret, but it's not a secret. It's so important to have our ducks in a row and to have some planning in place. Joint accounts, personal bank accounts. I want to leave you with this one. If you have a bank account, and it's just in your name, please, please, please make sure you go to that bank and you put a beneficiary on that account. The bank is not going to encourage you to do it. They typically don't even tell you you can, but you can. You can go to that financial institution and you can put a beneficiary on the account. Oh, that would help your family out so much so that they don't have to scramble and try to figure out how to do things. The next thing you want to make sure that you do is you want to make sure that you get yourself a will. You want to make sure that if your estate is a larger estate, larger, you own property, or you own property out of state, then you want to have a trust. And if you are you love your family, you want to make sure that you have a durable power of attorney and that you have a medical directive. If you love your family, you want to plan for the next generation. All right. And I don't just mean financial stuff, I mean preparing your children who are going to now have to take on responsibility of managing property, managing assets, and managing their lives. We got to prepare. All right. I guess I've talked enough. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. I'll see you next time. Be blessed.